Hello, friends. I hope you're out wandering through nature, exploring the natural world around you. Do you enjoy writing about your wanderings? Nature journaling is an awesome, fun way to remember all the adventures you have taken and how you felt during those journeys. If you're looking for some beautiful journals to keep track of all your wanderings, I have several available on Amazon, including some guided journals for children. Start your journey in journaling by clicking on the link in the show notes. Keep exploring the nature around you and keep journaling all your wanderings. Hello, friends, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Paul, and today I am out in Cattaraugus County. I am hiking through one of my favorite places to come, but I haven't been here in ages. I don't know why. I just don't get here as often as I'd like to. It's an exciting place. It's in Cattaraugus County, the town of Great Valley, I believe. It depends on what website you look at. Some put it as Salamanca, Little Valley, Great Valley. It's like no one really knows where this place is. I think because it's close to another state forest, and the two are linked, and they kind of go into several different townships. I think that's why they mark them differently on different, websites. But anyhow, I'm at Rock City State Forest. It's an interesting place, it's a beautiful place. I've been out hiking already for a little over an hour, just relaxing in the woods. And getting close to the end of my hike, which is, I planned it this way. I wanted to end it at an area of the state forest, which, by the way, the state forest here is approximately, it's just under 3,000 acres. So it's a good size, but right next to it is what they call McCarty Hill State Forest, which adds quite a bit of acreage to it. So between the two, it's over 6,000 acres. So it's quite a large area. But there's this one little section that I'm headed to that I want to talk about in this episode, that they call Little Rock City. And they call it Little Rock City because it's where you're going to see a lot of these boulders. As I've been walking along the trail, I've been coming across a lot of areas where there's like these humongous, gigundous boulders. Big boulders just kind of sitting there in the middle of the woods. Now, the trail I'm on, there's a hill that goes up to the right, down to the left. So I'm on a hillside. Trail kind of comes across the hillside, so I'm not doing a lot of terrain change here on my hike. But there's like a big boulder to the left of me. There's a big boulder to the right. The trail, I have my hiking stick with me. I brought a spare just in case, because sometimes on trails like this I like to use both hands, make sure that I am pretty sturdy and steady. The reason is there's just a lot of rocks, a lot of boulders on the trail, a lot of tree roots crossing the trail. There's some muddy spots and loose gravel in areas. It's not the easiest trail to hike, but that's all right. I'm just been taking my time. But this area, it is very unique in Western New York. If you've never been here, I'm going to highly recommend it. I can tell I'm getting real close to the actual city, as they call it, the Little Rock City. If you've never been here, come. You have to see it. I'm getting so many boulders now on both sides of me. The geology, we're going to talk a little bit about geology, not a lot, but you have to if you come here. I also want to incorporate the nature into this and how nature reacts to this area, being left alone for so long. But these boulders, a lot of times when we talk about boulders, we talk about glaciers. We talk about the glacial period 20,000 years ago, where the glaciers basically came and they ripped up all this rock and they deposited it in areas and left kettle pools behind. And well, studying this area, they have found that it wasn't glaciers that formed all this. Instead, what it was is mostly the creation of mountains. Okay, so when you have the earth, I'm trying to make this as simple as possible so that it makes sense to you. You have all this molten lava, under the crust of the earth, and it's pushing up, and that's where we get volcanoes, when it finds a way, to push through. But you have that pushing up. You also have the shifting of the continents, the plates, and the plates start pushing against each other, and they push up. And where is the rock going to go? It gets pushed up and out. You've got the pressure down below pushing up on them. And so that's how mountains are formed. So Little Rock City, it wasn't formed by the glaciers. Instead, it was actually formed through this mountain building event of, the plates crushing together and nowhere for the rock to go. So where's it going to go? It goes up, builds mountains. So that's how Little Rock City was formed. That whole process is what we call orogenies. Okay, so orogenies is a term we use for this event building process of mountain building. So anyhow, the sediment from the surrounding areas is deposited over Rock City State Forest, and then natural sources kind of took over. So the natural sources, they took over, and through time, lots and lots and lots and lots of time, that's how the actual Rock City was formed. And I'm in the heart of it right now. You're going to notice changes in tone maybe because I'm between 4 huge boulders right now down through one of the streets, as they call it, going through the rocks. Now, I'm standing here next to one of the rocks, and let's see, so this one here is about 15 foot tall. The one on the other side of the trail is about 20 foot tall. So we're talking about 20, 25 feet tall, and there's little pathways through some of these rocks. I mean, this one here, I could probably squeeze through, but I'm not going to try it because I have all my equipment on. I've got my backpack, but there's some boulders resting over the top of it, so it almost looks like a tunnel. So I've got this little tunnel going through. I love coming here with the kids and the grandkids because it's like the grandkids are always like finding their way through these little tunnels and streets, and it's kind of cool. Actually, I had to pause the podcast for a few minutes because I was passing a family and the mother was getting a little bit loud calling her kids names, trying to get them to answer back because they were exploring, which I think is great. That's what kids should do. They were exploring, and because they were exploring, she didn't want to know where they were. But just very unique place. So over time, gravity, we're at the top of a hill. Gravity kind of took over, and it started pulling the weight of these rocks down. I'm actually going through a chasm. It's like 3 feet wide. Okay, 3 feet wide. The rock is about 20, 25 feet over my head here. There's trees growing off of the top. There's one tree that is actually going across this chasm. So you may have noticed the tone changed here. Yeah, there's moss growing off of the rocks. It's just, the gravity started pulling them apart. They started to split. when you get water going into a crack in the rock, and then you get the cold winters here in western New York, that water freezes, and when water freezes, it expands, and it pushes the rocks apart. So that's happening, plus the gravity is pulling the rocks away from each other, and you also get erosion. I find most of the time when I'm here in the summertime, you don't want to come here well, you might want to come here in the wintertime, but they do close the roads. You have a I think it's 1.5 mile, 2 mile hike from where they closed the road back to this area in snowshoes or cross-country skis. So you do have erosion that's eating away at the rocks. I'm standing in front of one of the boulders right now. I'm actually between two of the boulders. It's a really neat area right here. And I'm looking at the side of the boulder, and all you're seeing are these tiny little pebbles. I will post these on my Facebook, these pictures so you can actually see, but there's these tiny little pebbles in the rock. It's what we call sedimentary rock. So all of the sediment, this used to be an ocean. I know, I just said we're at the top of a mountain. Used to be an ocean. They will find, all throughout western New York, they're constantly finding fossils of small sea creatures because all of western New York used to be under a tropical ocean, which was tropical in the middle of winter here. But yeah, we get all these, sediments building up over time, and then they get, these boulders got pushed to the surface, and now you can actually see the sediments. But sedimentary rock can be soft. It varies in its hardness. Some areas are very hard, other areas are very soft, and that water working its way through these channels slowly erodes it away. And that's what formed this city with these, as we call them, the roads going through between the rocks. Now, another neat thing is breaking away a little bit from the geology. What I love about being here is seeing the way that nature has dealt with the area. I've got a tree stump right here. Between two boulders is a piece of one of the boulders that fell off many, many years ago, and it's just kind of leaning up a little bit against it. It's probably about, I'm going to say, 10 inches thick. The boulder is about 6 feet long and about 4 feet wide. And it's kind of wedged into the ground, so I'm sure it goes a little bit deeper. It's a little bit bigger, a part of it's buried. And coming out between this fallen part and the two boulders, which are about, I'm going to say about 3 feet apart from each other. That's why it sounds a little bit echoey in here maybe. There's a tree that started growing. And what do trees need? They need water, they need nutrients, and they need sunlight. Yes, they need sunlight for that photosynthesis to happen. This tree is between two boulders. Is it getting much sun? No, it's actually a little bit cooler down here because there's very little sun coming through. Not just because of tree cover, but because, like I said, the boulders are like 25 feet tall. So I'm down 25 feet in this crevice, and this tree was the same way. It's like, I got to get up to the sun. I don't know how it made it with very little sunlight, but it managed to grow and grow up the side of the boulder. And now, I can't really see it from my location here. Oh yeah, I can. I see that once it got to the top, it kind of curved over, and I'm sure it sprouted some roots up top there too, because there's a layer of dirt and moss on the top of the boulder. I'm going to head up to the boulder and top of the boulders in a little while here, but I can see how it just kind of curved right over to the top, and then I see a tree, a very healthy tree up above it. Now the trunk of the tree actually looks like there's like 4 or 5 different trunks coming out together, but then they meld together to one trunk. So these are kind of the roots coming down. The trunk is about 1 foot in diameter, so it's a good sized tree, and it made it up. Now I'm going to turn around to, that's kind of a dead end, that road. And I'm coming around to another section where I have to kind of climb through the boulders here, but there's another tree here too, a birch. And this one unfortunately didn't make it. The roots look pretty healthy. They made it up the tree. And on the top of the boulder you can see, oh wait a minute, you can see, yeah, it looks like a trunk, but it looks like the trunk died, but I'm actually noticing some roots went further up onto the next level of boulder, and there is a healthy birch tree in the middle of that boulder. Several birch trees up there. So I'm going to make my way through this area without falling and killing myself here. Make sure you have the proper footwear. I always bring my hiking boots when I come out in here. They have good traction. I've got another small tree coming up in the middle of the roadway here. Now on my left side the boulder is just a little bit taller than me, so maybe about 8 feet tall. The one on the right started out at about 25 feet, and now it's down to about 12, 15 feet. And on the side of this boulder on my right, I've got this birch tree going up the side of the boulder, and you can see where the roots have found a crevice in the boulder. Little crevice, and it went down into that crevice, and it's grabbing the moisture from the moss that the moss collects. I don't know if you hear the, there he is, wood thrush. Yeah, I always hear wood thrush down in here. And then there's some more of the trunk going up. The trunk of the tree is maybe about 8-inch diameter as you get up higher, but it's going way up into the sunny area, beating out the other trees. But there's roots coming all along the boulders in through the moss, just grabbing that moisture from the moss. So the trees have learned, to go and survive in here. And as I come around the corner, there's another bigger, wow, that thing's massive. And they change directions too. It's like this birch tree started going up between the boulders, and then the sunlight must have been over to the left a little bit, so it curved around and then started heading up. And this one is actually headed towards the sunlight, not from the top of the boulder, but about halfway up. It started growing away from the boulder, but the roots are just hanging on to that boulder. Doesn't give it a lot of strength unless it finds a lot of crevices. Now I can tell I'm coming into a sunny area. It's a little bit wider here, very wet. Yeah, it's all muddy. I'm gonna watch my footing here. But as I'm coming into this area here, the whole side of this boulder is all moss, and there's a lot of ferns growing off of the side. There's some lichens. Lichens is showing that it's very healthy air here. Very. Do you hear the wood thrush? Yeah, very clean air here, not polluted. Yeah, so whenever I see lichens, I get excited. Healthy lichens. And then of course you get the morons. Just passing an area here, a little bit of graffiti. Luckily, they didn't use very good paint. And it just totally disintegrated. I was talking about you need to get that, it's faded, the graffiti is what I'm talking about. Remember I was talking about getting the good strongholds? Well, I see a tree here that came out of a crevice, so a seed must have gotten in that little crevice there, and it's curved around and started heading towards the sun. This total thing is maybe about, including the curved area, 6 feet in length. It's dead, totally dead. Didn't get the sunlight, didn't make it up into the sun quick enough. And then there's 2 trees up above here. I'm standing on in a path where the boulder is probably about 25 feet tall. And there's a very healthy, looks like a, hard to tell from down here, it's a conifer of some sort. And, well, I can't tell from here. I'd have to go up higher, but it actually started on a ledge. There's a ledge here about halfway up the boulder, and this tree started off of that ledge. Next to it is a birch tree that started off of the same ledge, And that one got up to another ledge a little bit higher, got really bulky, and then headed up to the sun. So they're not even down in the ground here where it's nice and moist. They're living off of that thin layer, which is probably about 8 inches thick of moss and dirt there. And they're grabbing as much moisture as they can. I don't know how long they're going to last, but on top of this other boulder here, this one's not as tall. These trees, much bigger, looks like a good size beech tree. Yeah, good size beech tree. Nice 3-foot diameter to it, growing off the top of the rock. I mean, nature has really figured it out. It's like, hey, you know, these big rocks are in the way, you know, getting in the way of my soil. I'm just going to build off of them. A little bit of a muddy area here. They have some boardwalks across with wire on so people don't slip. So that's the sound you're hearing. I'm going to be quiet for a second here so you can listen to this wood thrush. So hopefully you can hear the thrush calling. I always hear them down here. A lot of different bird species in this area. So I'm going to go a little bit further up here, a little bit of a muddy area. Like I said, it gets a little bit moist down in here, a little muddy. Doesn't dry up very quickly because it's very shaded. Always a great place to come in the summer. Nice and cool down here in the rocks. Every once in a while I'll see someone climbing up on the rocks doing some bouldering. Yeah, I've seen that a few times in here. It's a great place for bouldering. This one has, the boulder I'm standing next to has a really huge hemlock growing off of it. It's like right on the edge of the boulder. I'm going to start working my way up towards the top. Quite a large area here, the Little Rock City area here. I'm going to work my way. There's a dead tree that didn't make it, just kind of hanging on the side of this boulder. Looks like it died, probably of old age. Got a nice grassy knoll here. It's got all the sunlight made it through in this area. So it probably had a large tree that died here and opened it up just enough for the sun. Now I'm hearing a robin in the woods. Now I'm going to take a short break here. I'll be right back. So I hiked about another 15 minutes during the pause for you. It was a matter of seconds, but I took the trail around and I got to the top of the boulders. Right now I'm standing on top of these boulders right near the parking area. So you can actually park, and if you're not very athletic and you just want to see the place, you can stand at the top of the boulders. But if you're afraid of heights, like I am, not the greatest of places, but it's not too far of a fall. Like I said, they're like 25 feet high, but I'm on the top of the boulders. It's pretty flat up here. It is top of a boulder. You can see a lot of plants, trees, big trees, as a matter of fact, growing off of the top of these boulders. I mean, they're living off of maybe about, 6 inches of soil and, deposits of leaves that turned into soil over time. The one boulder I'm standing on right now has about a dozen trees on top of it. It's probably about, I'm going to guess, 30 feet wide and about, I'm going to say 150 feet long. And you have a dozen good-sized trees. I mean, the two of the trees, hemlocks, they are, most of them are hemlocks up here, but a couple of them are like a good foot diameter, maybe even a little wider. Others are a little thinner. No real tiny trees, they're good hefty trees. But I'm standing on top of a mound of soil. And you can see the roots going through this and the mosses. So, this nature. It just, knows what it needs to do, and it does it. As I'm looking around, there's several of these large boulders here. You have to kind of walk over a small crevice. This crevice here is probably about a foot wide, so easy just to step over. But if you look down in the crevice, it's probably about 20-25 feet down, so you don't want to fall in there. So I crossed over to another boulder here, and I'm headed off to the main boulder, as I call it. This is the boulder that you get to as soon as you come out of your car in the parking lot. You can come off to this boulder here, which is one of the larger ones. This one's probably, once again, about 150 feet deep, long, and wide, probably about 100 feet wide. To get to another boulder, there's a good, probably 3 foot, if you have long legs, or you can jump. Actually it's more like 2 foot. 2 foot gap between here. If you're afraid of heights, not the place for you. But it's just amazing how this was formed and how it stood the test of time. Time is actually what's making it, making this place what it is. Creating the roads through the boulders, in between the boulders. I did have a family here, three vehicles, but the family, the one vehicle only had 2 people in it. It's like you couldn't squeeze them into. I won't go there. Okay, that's the environmentalist of me. But 3 vehicles here, so when I got up here, it was a little bit noisy, so I waited for them to leave before I started recording again. But these trees are just, they're amazing how they can grow off of here. Now, there isn't a lot on this main boulder here, this big boulder, not a lot of growth on the top. And it's mostly because people. Yeah, people are walking on this all the time when they come here. If they aren't, great climbers or, can't handle, walking down the trails, and this is what they do, is they come here, they stand up top here, and so you've got all this foot traffic on the top, and it's just eating away at the soil and the moss. There's a little bit of moss up here, but not a lot. One section of this boulder where people don't go, because everyone wants to go to the edge and look over, but the one section does have some grasses growing, has some other plants growing, some smaller trees, so that's about a quarter of the boulder that I'm standing on. So this is Rock City. It's amazing how nature adapts to what it has. Nature created this place through erosion, through time, through gravity pulling the rocks apart. All of this formed this city of rocks. I mean, if you walk down below, it's like you're walking through a city, down the streets, down the sidewalk of a city, because you have these big, huge buildings around you, which are the rocks. So it's kind of neat to see from both angles, from up above here and also from down below. So nature created it, and nature, it learned how to live here too. Side of this one boulder that I'm looking down at, just covered in ferns. The ferns found every single crack it could to grow out of. And it's doing a good job of it. We've got some, looks like some red maple. We got a nice red oak growing up here next to me. Sugar maple, another red maple over there. So wide variety of trees. They have the soil, enough soil to grow out of. And it's amazing to see these trees up on the boulders. Now, if you're a birder, it's also a great place to come. I'm actually watching some butterflies go through the woods here. But it's a great place for birding by ear. I see a lot of birds as I'm hiking through the woods. Like I said, I've been out probably like 2-3 hours now. Yeah, just noticed the time. I've been out about 3 hours hiking through here, and I've noticed a lot of different species of birds, a lot of species of trees. Haven't seen much wildlife other than chipmunks. I saw a couple of squirrels. That's about all I've seen. I haven't seen any deer, which surprises me. Usually I see some deer in through here. But like I said, there are a few people wandering through, so they're scaring them off. Black bear have been spotted here, so just be prepared. You always want to make sure you're prepared for whatever comes at you in nature. I'd like to thank you for joining me. I highly encourage you getting here, learning a little bit about the geology, but also enjoying the nature of this place. There's several trails. You're right next to McCarty Hill State Forest, which has trails on it. And I got to get over this ravine. Okay. Not the greatest place for people like me with fear of heights, but I've been here so many times and I know how to stay safe here. But anyhow, come, enjoy. If you want to learn more about Rock City, or if you want to help the podcast by making a donation, feel free to please visit the show notes and make a donation to help keep the podcast going. And you can also buy nature journals, Nature Wanderer merchandise. All of it's in the show notes, so check out the show notes and get out and explore nature and keep exploring the nature around you. Have a great day, everybody.
Did you know that plastic is made with oil, a fossil fuel that pollutes the environment? And did you know that only about 15% of all plastic is recycled into new products? Wouldn't it be awesome if we could live our lives without plastic so that we could stop harming the planet? Well, there's a company that wants to help you do just that. Life Without Plastic sells products that will reduce or eliminate your dependence on plastic. They have a large selection from toothbrushes to food storage containers to drinking straws, all plastic free. And it's reasonably priced. So what are you waiting for? Check out all these great plastic-free products and help save the planet. Just click on the link in the show notes to find out more and to start your journey to being plastic-free.